What if every night the sun had to pass through darkness, survive an attack, and fight its way back into the sky? What if every night the sun had to pass through darkness, survive an attack, and fight its way back into the sky? That was one of the most powerful ideas in ancient Egyptian religion. The enemy waiting in the darkness was a gigantic serpent named Apep, or Apophis in the Greek form of his name. But Apep wasn't simply an Egyptian version of Satan. He didn't rule hell, and there's no good evidence that Egyptians worshipped him. Apep represented something more fundamental: the forces of chaos that threatened the ordered world. The British Museum describes him as the serpent enemy of the sun god and a symbol of the primeval forces of chaos. To understand why that mattered, we first need to understand how the Egyptians imagined the world. They believed the created world depended on ma'at, order, balance, justice, and the proper arrangement of things. The opposite was isfet, disorder, violence, falsehood, and disruption. Apep was not exactly the same thing as isfet, but he was one of its most terrifying expressions. He was chaos given a body, and that body was usually a serpent. Why a snake? Ancient Egypt had many serpent deities, and not all of them were dangerous. Some protected kings, temples, gods, and the dead, so the Egyptians didn't simply believe that every snake was evil. The serpent's meaning depended on the context. A coiled snake could protect. A rearing cobra could defend the king. But Apep was different. He was usually shown as a huge serpent being restrained, cut, stabbed, or otherwise defeated. Every evening, as the sun slipped below the western horizon, the Egyptians believed its journey wasn't over. It was only beginning. They believed the sun god, Ra, entered a mysterious world called the Duat. Think of it as the hidden world the sun had to cross every single night before it could rise again. One of our best ancient guides to that journey is a text called the Duat. Its name simply means that which is in the Duat. According to the Duat, the night was divided into 12 hours. Hour by hour, Re sailed through the darkness. He passed strange landscapes. He met gods. He brought light to the blessed dead. And with every hour, he moved closer to being reborn at sunrise. But there was one problem. Someone was waiting for him. Apep. My God. The giant serpent didn't attack at random. He waited for the moment when the sun was most vulnerable. And according to the Duat, one of the most dangerous moments came during the 7th hour of the journey. There, Apep tried to stop the solar boat. If he succeeded, the journey would end. No sunrise, no new day, no renewal. But Ra wasn't alone. The gods on the solar boat fought beside him. Isis used powerful magic. A mysterious divine figure known as the Elder Magician joined the battle. Others helped bind the giant serpent so it couldn't reach the boat. This wasn't just a battle of strength. It was also a battle of magic. In ancient Egyptian religion, words had power. Names had power. Sacred spells had power. Defeating Apep meant using all of them together. And that's one of the most fascinating parts of the story. Even the sun god didn't defeat chaos completely on his own. Keeping the universe in order was something the gods accomplished together. Every single night. One of the gods most famously shown fighting Apep is Set, and that can be confusing. My God. Do you remember him, friends? We talked about him a lot in previous episodes. Yes, he is Seth, the charming god of chaos. Today, Set is often reduced to a simple villain because of his conflict with Osiris and Horus, right? But ancient Egyptian religion was more complicated than that. Set could represent violence, disruption, storms, and dangerous power. Yet that same dangerous power could be turned against an even greater threat. In several religious traditions, Set stands at the front of the solar boat and attacks Apep. So in this setting, Set is not trying to destroy the sun, he is defending it. That does not erase his hostile roles in other stories. Egyptian gods could behave differently in different religious contexts. Set could be an enemy in one tradition and a necessary defender in another. The Egyptians didn't always force their gods into simple categories like completely good or completely evil. A power that was dangerous could still be useful when directed against chaos, and Apep was the enemy that had to be stopped. But what exactly was Apep trying to do? The surviving texts and images don't give us one single continuous story written like a modern novel. Different compositions describe the threat in different ways. Apep blocks the solar route. He threatens the boat. He uses his own magical power. In the Amduat, the attack is connected with stopping the movement of the solar bark. The purpose is clear even when individual details vary. Apep is trying to interrupt the cycle. No successful journey, no rebirth of the sun, no sunrise, and without the sun's return, the ordered world could not continue in its normal form. This is why the battle is bigger than a fight between two mythological creatures. It is a conflict between continuity and collapse, between the created world and the forces that threaten to undo it. But we should be careful here. Egyptian sources don't give us one complete, systematic explanation of Apep. There was no single ancient book called The Complete Story of Apep. What survives comes from different periods, tombs, papyri, temple rituals, funerary texts, and magical compositions. These sources often overlap, but they don't always describe every detail in exactly the same way. And that leaves us with one fascinating question. If Apep is overcome again and again during the sun god's nightly journey, why is he never destroyed once and for all? The texts repeatedly describe him being restrained, stabbed, cut apart, burned, crushed, or magically defeated. And yet the threat returns. That doesn't mean the rituals failed. The repetition seems to be part of the meaning. Apep represented a danger that could be overcome, but never permanently ignored. In the Egyptian vision of the cosmos, order did not simply preserve itself. It had to be protected, restored, reaffirmed, again and again. And honestly, that reminds me of something in our own lives. Not because the Egyptians created this story as a modern lesson about success, they didn't. But we can still find a personal reflection in it. Balance doesn't maintain itself automatically. A meaningful goal usually isn't reached through one dramatic act. It is built through small actions repeated with patience and discipline. One step today, another tomorrow. Not a magical law of success, just the quiet power of consistency. Perhaps that is why this ancient image still feels so familiar. Every night, darkness returns, and every morning, the light must rise again. But the battle against Apep didn't only happen in the stories. The Egyptians believed they could help fight him here on Earth. Priests performed special rituals based on sacred texts, including one we now call the book of overthrowing Apep. They drew his image, spat on it, cut it, pierced it with knives, burned it. To us, that might sound like symbolism, but the Egyptians believed these actions had real power. Destroying Apep's image was a magical way of helping destroy Apep himself. They believed every ritual helped protect the sun god and helped make sure the sun would rise again. These ceremonies were mainly performed in temples by priests, not by everyone. That shows just how seriously the Egyptians took the threat of chaos. Apep also appears in some of the most famous Egyptian funerary art. One scene from the Book of the Dead shows something unexpected: a cat attacking a giant serpent with a knife. That serpent is generally understood to be Apep. The cat represents the protective power of the sun god. It might look strange today, but to the Egyptians, it made perfect sense. Cats could kill snakes in real life, so the image became a powerful symbol of light defeating chaos. And there's something interesting about almost every picture of Apep. You never see him winning. He's tied up, cut apart, or already defeated. The message was simple. Chaos could threaten the world, but order would always fight back. So, was Apep the Egyptian devil? No. That comparison creates more confusion than it solves. Apep did not rebel against one all-powerful creator in the same way Satan is understood in later Jewish, Christian, or Islamic traditions. He did not rule a kingdom of damned souls. He did not judge the dead, and he was not the ruler of the Duat. The Duat itself was not simply an Egyptian version of hell. It contained gods, the dead, regions of renewal, dangers, punishments, and the nightly path of the sun. Apep was one hostile presence within that larger religious landscape. Calling him the Egyptian Satan may sound dramatic, but it forces a much later religious idea onto Egyptian evidence. A more accurate description is this: Apep was the great serpent enemy of the solar god and one of the clearest embodiments of destructive chaos in Egyptian religion. That may sound less familiar, but it is far more interesting, because Apep was not simply a character who appeared once in a myth and disappeared. He represented the possibility that the cycle could stop, that movement could become stillness, that light could fail to return, that the boundaries holding the ordered world together could break. And yet, in the surviving images, he is almost always restrained, bound, cut, pierced, rendered powerless. The Egyptians gave chaos a terrifying body, but they also surrounded that body with ropes, knives, gods, spells, and fire. Dear friends, knowledge of art history can make you a charismatic person in any group, so don't forget to subscribe to our channel.